Hello, everybody. Hi, Morgan. Hi, Pablo.
Hello.
Hello.
So just a little background on the three speakers today. We've obviously got myself, Michaela Vessels. We've got Pablo Lafaurie and Morgan Polinelli. All three of us are actually joining from New York City, in fact. And just as brief background on myself, I'm one of the founders and CEO of Style Arcade. And prior to founding the company back in 2017, I spent 15 years in merch buying, planning, and consulting across retailers in South Africa, the UK, and Australia. And the reason I'm so excited to host this session today is because it's one of my passions, the ability to share information across different brands so that we can level up the entire industry. And I've always felt there was the opportunity to collaborate more with fashion retail. So Pablo, thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you joining us today. And Pablo's obviously the COO and Director of Operations at Lafaurie. And Lafaurie is a heritage French menswear brand founded in 1991 in Paris. You guys have had amazing success, obviously building in Europe and delivered a brilliant expansion strategy into the United States, which we're going to learn about today. So welcome, Pablo, and thank you so much for sharing your insights.
Thanks a lot, Michaela, and hello everyone. I'm really happy to be with you today and to share all the insights that we learned in the US and in our global experience in fashion.
And last but not least, Morgan, thanks for joining us. Morgan,
Hi.
as some of you may recognize, is one of Style Arcade's buying and planning consultants. She brings 7 years of amazing experience in merch buying and planning across some of Australia's most notable brands, Lee Matthews, MJ Bale, Assembly the Label. And Morgan, obviously dialing in from New York, but you've just relocated from London. So thank you so much for joining in. You'll have to tell us which is the best city, but maybe we'll leave that for Q&A.
Oh no, Q&A, leave it for last. No, I'm so excited to be here and talk shop today.
All right, guys. Well, maybe we should begin with a little bit of data. Always a good place to start. So thank you to everyone who registered and also for filling out the question as to which region do brands want to focus next when expanding internationally. Not a big surprise here for me. I don't know about you guys, but almost 50% want to expand into the USA. But the second part is like a runner-up, not planning to expand right now at all. That I found really interesting. And the only hypothesis I can give on that is that when speaking to a lot of brands recently, it seems like everyone's very focused on their assortment and optimizing that for their local market or the regions they already have in play versus jumping into international expansion right now. But yeah, I'm sure there are other opinions on that. And then Australia coming in third and Europe in fourth. Any comments from you guys on that, or does it seem pretty logical?
I think that the 18% is really interesting, and I think that we will talk about it obviously during the webinar. But international expansion is a huge growth opportunities from brands, from international brands, from French brands to the US, or from Australian brands, I believe, to the US. And I think that it's not so hard to test it and to expand and to see where you can grow. And so it's good and important to focus on our local operations, but I'm convinced that for all the brands have potential internationally. So I'll try to minimize that 18% at the end of the webinar.
Pablo, I love it. Thank you. You're right. There's a lot of opportunity for a lot of brands. There really is. So on that, let's share some of these insights that you guys have had from expanding into the United States. So Pablo, maybe a great place to start is even just a background on Lafaurie as a brand and its evolution, and then just tell us what inspires shoppers, I guess, and also helps you guys translate your brand identity across these different geographical regions.
Yeah, sure. So first, maybe to present myself. So my name is Pablo. I'm the CEO of Lafaurie. It's a French menswear brand that I took over with my brother 6 years ago to talk a bit about the brand and our vision. So at Lafaurie, we imagine minimalist, pragmatic, and creative wardrobe. At Lafaurie, we love like subtle color combinations, and we are always seeking for the best fabrics and the finest savoir-faire to create really high quality products, but at an affordable price. Today, we are an omnichannel brand. We have a network of 12 retail stores in France, including 6 in Paris. So we are really a D2C brand, but with a retail focus. And our products also are available worldwide on our e-commerce platform. And the US, our first market today, with a bit more of 50% of the e-commerce sales. And so it's really a strategic market for us today and a market when we grow a lot. And so I'm really happy to be with you to share our insights and to finish about like our sales mix. We have a small part of our activity, which is wholesale today. We have a flagship corner store at Le Printemps in Paris, which is one of the biggest department stores in Paris, and we are going to open other corners in department stores in the next months. So really about the background, we are really an omnichannel brand that is growing with a strong international focus today.
I think all brands, Pablo, very focused on being that omni-channel presence. But how do you guys, I guess, continue to evolve, particularly in the launch into the US?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that for the first thing is about like mindset. I think that even as an executive in a menswear brand or in a brand in general, you have to communicate to the team and to like embody your international ambitions. And this is also one of the reasons why I am in the US currently, because it's also to create an international mindset internally in your brand, and from like the creative director to our accounting manager or logistics manager, everybody has to have these like international ambitions. And I think it's the first thing to succeed internationally. It's to think about our team, our internal team, and to communicate really that ambition to everybody. And today we are lucky because at Lafaurie, all our team like share that ambition to grow internationally. So I think it's like the first maybe necessary step to grow internationally. It's to have an international mindset. I believe that another one really important is to have like an operational structure and to build an operational structure in the country where you really want to scale and to grow. It's currently what I am doing in the US. It's really is to have from like legal to logistics, really to have a dedicated business unit, because you want to build a P&L, you want to build a strategy per market. And I think that growing internationally, it's not just adding a bit more of revenue to your like current structure and to your current team, but it's really to build a dedicated strategy. And I believe it's also what you did at Style Arcade while being in New York. It's really, you have to empower the business and to have a dedicated structure. And I think maybe to last reason would be confidence to grow internationally. It's a bit linked to the data that you have on the survey, but I'm really, really convinced that each brand has a chance and has a growth potential internationally. Because if you have some customers in your local country and your home country, you can have customers abroad. So it's just like confidence and seeing the potential of your brand and you have to be confident, and you will have prospects and customer interested in your brand elsewhere. We just need to plan correctly the operations, and this is how we are currently doing it, I believe. So really, it's team and mindset, confidence, and then having a dedicated strategy. It's how we did it for now.
I love it. I love it. The mindset is where it begins, I believe, as well. But like you say, you have to have the confidence to execute as well. I know, Morgan, you work with so many brands, right? In terms of team mindset, even like Pablo is saying, confidence being important, and also the different channels that these brands are using to enter new markets. What are you seeing out there?
Yeah, I love that you mentioned channels, Kai, because I think that confidence comes with, I see a lot of brands actually testing the waters with wholesale. So it's using the wholesale channel to really see if there is appetite for my brand out there. I think Pablo and I were talking about this before in terms of the strategy with Lafaurie of wholesale partners, and perhaps that is ranging some really beautiful core items that we know that the customer loves to get to know Lafaurie as a brand, which I see commonly across the board. But then, there's also the opposite side of that, where I've worked with high-end luxury fashion retailers in Oz that actually the D2C customer and the wholesale customer are two completely different people, which can work to my detriment as a merchandiser sometimes, but also can be really great for my brand identity exposure, because that means I get to play and have fun and push the boundaries of what I think my brand can be in terms of high-end fashion product. So, that works really well for my marketing and getting my name out there, but also sometimes really good for clearing that D2C stock through available to sell. So there's a few different ways you can kind of utilize those channels there.
Yeah, totally. Well, it goes to the point, I guess, that a lot of those consumers are different on different channels, right? And they're certainly different across different geographical regions. Pablo, you're probably the expert in this particular topic, but what I'd like to move on to is like this consumer behavior and the difference, right? Like, what are the notable differences that you've seen, or the biggest, between the US and Europe?
Yeah, sure. We with our current experience, we noticed, I would say, two main difference between the markets, even if in terms of, it's not really a question of bestsellers, because our bestsellers are common through between the markets, but it's more from a consumer perspective and behavior, as you told. The first one, I believe, is that we see the US market as a more product led market than the French market. I can take an example, for instance, with our paid acquisition strategy. Over the last few months, we built a strategy around the painter's jacket, which is really our bestseller in France and in the US for many years. And we see that
Pablo,
when a customer...
Explain that jacket to people who haven't seen the painter's jacket. Are you wearing it?
It's currently the one that I'm wearing, but
so
it's
good.
so it's a kind of workwear jacket. It's between a shirt and between a jacket, I would say, and it's really our signature pieces for many years. That one is built in cotton canvas, Belgium cotton canvas, and then it's garment dyed, so we create our own colors in our own lab dips, and then it's washed also. So there is all our process behind the jacket. It's really our signature jacket. And when we saw in how our French customers loved that jacket, we felt that we needed to build our acquisition strategy around that jacket. And so when a customer landed on the website and discovered through a paid ad that jacket in the US, we noticed that the time to conversion, so really the number of visits that were needed for the customer to buy the product, was really lower in the US than in France. And we and it's really interesting because in France it's not the same behavior. When you run the same ad and the customer lands on the website, it takes the time to discover the brand. And maybe he comes to our retail stores also in his city, because we have like 12 in France, and our acquisition strategy is a lot in Paris, where we have like 6 retail stores. So, but he takes more time, and it takes more time to follow the brand, to discover our content. Whereas in the US, we see a more like direct path to conversion. And it's because the customer first buys the product, where the US customer buys the product, where I believe maybe the French customer buys our brand identity. And so it's a big like growth opportunity for a brand like us, because it's really having a low time to conversion is incredible for like e-commerce growth. So maybe it was the first the first big difference. It was about like that product led market. I don't know if you have like maybe in your previous experiences like noticed it, Michaela or Morgan, or
Well, Pablo, I like that statement because that's something that you're teaching me now is brands leading with their best-selling product was actually an acquisition strategy for you, which was brilliant. And you don't need to necessarily do that in France because you have the brand awareness. But here in the US, obviously, leading with your winner has, really benefited you guys. Yeah, love it.
That's going to be so interesting to track over time too, Pablo, and seeing how fast, now that you're here on the ground, is once you've really built out, is it 6 months? Is it 12 months? Like how long does that take to grab that US customer and that they really are brand first?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I think also, when you purchase for the first time for a brand, obviously, like we are all like fashion lovers, so product and image and branding is the most important thing. But when you buy for a brand that you don't know, I believe that you also buy a product first. And so we have to always keep in mind having the product, and how the customer feels you and discovers the brand, but always keep in mind the product. And when you see a product-led market like the US, you have to really to underline the good products with the good dose also of branding, obviously. So it's always the mix. But yeah, we really noticed that it was a more product-led market. And so because also it's more an e-commerce market than France, we saw in the US, it's I would say around like 40% of the menswear sales in e-commerce, where in France it's like 20 to 25%. And so it's really you discover a brand with an e-commerce purchase. And so this is why we are more product led also in our like acquisition strategy. But yeah, it's really having the ability to rely on our best sellers. It helps us also to grow confidently, because we know that product has a small return rate also. So this is why we chose it as our best seller. Also, maybe another difference that we noticed in our analytics is that we saw that we had a higher AOV in the US than in France. And it's because we noticed that our US customer buy our more like sophisticated products and higher products in terms of like a price point. And I think also it seems logic, because I believe if you think as a customer buying from an international brand or a French menswear brand like Lafaurie, I believe that you want to buy the products with the more like added value, where you see really the difference. And I believe that you don't want necessarily to buy the basics or simple clothes that you could buy from a local brand. And so it's also a good like opportunity for a brand like us and international brands, because you can sell really like more expensive products with a higher AOV. And then if you have a high AOV, you can invest a lot in like paid acquisition, we will talk, I think, about it like later, but when you have a good AOV, you can really invest in marketing. And so it's also growth opportunity. So it's really a good market, the US, to scale an e-commerce business, I believe, because it's really product led. There is a higher AOV, and it's what we noticed. And so, yeah, I would say it's the two biggest difference that we noticed yet.
I think you're definitely edging towards more of the listeners getting very excited about a higher average order value, selling your best-selling products. Obviously, usually they have the highest margin as well. And if they're your best acquisition vehicle and your best retention vehicle, even better, even better. So yeah, but I guess you've taken a very data-driven approach to, what is the acquisition cost in this new region. And you've looked actually at data across the board, but I think there's so many spiky problems in international expansion, like language, currency, sizing is one of the topics that I care about as well. And it's a hot topic and it's tricky. So what have you guys, well, I guess, Morgan, you've got a lot of information about how brands are sizing or thinking about sizing into international markets. What are the trends?
I mean, this is my favorite topic too. Something I love to talk about is sizing. And, Pablo and the Lafaurie team and I, while we're going through our onboarding and diving into the data, it is something that we loved reading into insights for. And you'd be surprised actually how similar the size curves are per region across Europe and the US.
Similar.
Similar, I know. It's really, if you categorize it, because I'm a planner, guys, I have to categorize top of body, same kind of curve, that beautiful jacket that Pablo is wearing today. And I think that when you think about it, bottom of body in a merch life, we know that that's the hard to sell anyway. It's so dependent on the block and the fabric and what is he wearing it with. And it takes me back to my menswear days where we used to sell nested suiting. Nested suiting basically means that I would sell a jacket and a pant together. So a size 42 jacket goes with a size 36 pant. And I was on the retail shop floor trying to sell these guys these suits. And they're like, no, but I'm a size 38 pant. I don't want to buy the whole thing. And so once we allowed the customer to just purchase as they were and as they'd like, we saw, number one, our pants size curve went up and our sales went up and customer happiness. So I think it was a few birds with one stone there. But it's similar with Lafaurie. So we see the US size curve shift upwards in bottom of body, but that top of body is quite the same. So I think that when we're looking at sizing and we're expanding internationally, I'd be keeping an eye on that size curve quite quickly, every month, every quarter, because I want to be reactive to that. I've got new customers coming in all the time. I want to be able to service them. But in something like a jacket that is my number one top seller, maybe it's less about changing what I'm purchasing per size and actually just about translating. I am a big shoe shopper. I love shoes. And, living in the UK recently, traveling a lot of Europe and now being in the US, I have so many conversions in my head. It's insane. And I just have to constantly check, okay, Italian 39, what is that again? Is that a US 8? So maybe it's less about the buy and it's actually just more about the translation. I don't know, Pablo,
Yeah.
have you guys thought about that?
Yeah, definitely. It's like the tricky question, I would say, because like if you think from a customer perspective, it's not convenient at all to keep the same the same sizing. For instance, for us today, it's like currently a project. So I'm going to share it with you guys, but it's today we display like the French sizing and we use the French size convention. So it seems like easy like that, but I believe from a customer perspective, it's not necessarily. But French sizes are you have to add 10 to a US sizes. So like a 28 in the US for pants is like a 38. And we know that if the customer like has to translate it, we are going for sure to lose some customers. And so, definitely one of our projects is to translate natively the size available on our website, but it's not so easy to implement because we have to do it also from a product perspective. And so we need to display on our product labels also the international sizes and the US size, because if today we use like US sizes on our website and then you receive a product that is, for instance, a 38, you don't understand because it's a 28 US but a 38 French. And so, yeah, the idea really is to translate it and also to have like a dedicated product labels for that. But it's a lot to implement also from a production perspective, etc. So it takes time, but yeah, it's definitely a project.
It sounds big, Pablo, as well, because obviously there's so much to think about when you're expanding internationally. There's a lot of boxes to tick, and this is obviously a big project you guys have to undertake to move to that next level. But to have already gotten the revenue from the US market that you have is really, really impressive. So it shows you can start somewhere, right? There is obviously that aspect.
Definitely. I think that like you can really start, and we don't, for international growth, nothing is more important than testing, I believe. And we obviously in the last years we did some mistake, but it's okay to do some mistake. It's just test and learn, and you don't have to wait to have the perfect structure. And we don't have it today, but we continue to grow. And then I believe that next year I will say, how did we do that? What we are currently doing, it's always a learning curve, I believe. So yeah, we can start, but just always keeping the customer in mind. And I think it's really important to keep that the customer can buy to many brands that is not yours. And so you have to make his life easier. And if you're always looking to make his life easier, then you will grow, I believe.
I love that. Well, you guys have done a lot of planning and work, and particularly Pablo, I think I would just have launched into the market personally. I wouldn't have done as much planning as you have, but it's really, really paid off. And I think one of the things that stood out to me was your focus on operations. So that's something I wanted to share with the listeners today as well, because what are your strategies for operational success? And how do you build confidence in the US customer now buying a French brand?
Yeah. It's like confidence is one of my like favorite topics, I would say, because it's so important for French brand and in e-commerce mainly, because our strategy really at Lafaurie is to build an e-commerce first company with also a wholesale presence. But for the US, it's really to build an e-commerce first company. And so we have, as a French brand, to look as an American like brand from a e-commerce experience, from an operational perspective. It's really important to have the most like simple, easy, seamless experience, and with not like cross-border fears, I would say, for the customer. So the most important thing, the first thing, is to have a great shipping experience. I would say it's the first thing to achieve. At Lafaurie, we chose to have a 72-hour shipping and an affordable 72-hour shipping. So we ship today all our orders from France to the US, but we are currently opening a warehouse. But you can offer like 72-hour shipping to your customers, even if you operate from another country. So it's really the first thing. You have to deliver your customers really quickly. It doesn't have to be in 24 hours, obviously, but 72 hours is, I believe, the good shipping time. You necessarily to have like free and easy returns. It's really important. Returns management can be tricky, obviously, in another country, but you can choose, you can have solutions. Today we operate with third-party logistics, that is our return center in the US. So we tried and decided to open a return center because you can't ask to your customers, I believe, to ship back a product to France if my New York customers has to buy a product from the US, from France, and then ship it from the US to France. It's so complicated because you have custom things, etc., etc. So it's really, really important to have like free and easy returns. And I believe the most important thing is like, you have to sell delivery duty paid, so the customer never pays hidden fees when he receives his package. I believe that it's the worst thing to do, is to have to pay something when you receive the package, when you are happy to unbox it, etc. And if the shipping carrier asks you to pay some additional fees, I think it's the worst experience. So it's really about shipping. You have to communicate a lot about these elements. So affordable shipping, easy shipping, fast shipping, easy returns, fast returns. And this is why, for instance, we built a dedicated page on our website that is not like hidden in the footer, but it's like really visible everywhere on our website. And it's really just writing your vision for that and reassuring the customer, giving him like confidence. And it's really important to show to your customer that you try to like answer the questions before he asks you, like how the return works, how the shipping works, how the tracking works. Like you have to, it's better to say more rather than like to not saying anything. So, and you have to highlight like that USPs, that kind of USPs on your website. So it's the first thing for confidence. It's like shipping, a good shipping, and a really a premium logistics experience. And I believe the second thing to reassure the customers would be to give the customer a localized experience. It's really important. It starts from an e-commerce perspective, even like a technical perspective. Today, our website in the US, it's us.lafaurieparis.com. And it shows that it's really a dedicated website to the customer, where it could be lafaurieparis.com/US. No, it's not the same thing. It's small details, but always showing that this website and that e-commerce strategy is built for our US customers. Localized experience for payment. Also, it's really important. It's really important to have local payment methods. So obviously PayPal, but I think about like ShopPay, for instance. Also, it's the express checkout from Shopify, and it's really important. Really important. It's really used in the US, and so you have to give the good like local payment methods. You have to choose also the local carriers. So when we chose UPS and DHL, we made some research to see what were like the most popular carriers in the US, and so we use them. So it's really, you have to always think from a customer perspective and try to imagine if you are, for instance, if you are from Australia and you want to ship an American brand, what are your questions? And then try to ask and to answer it on your website, I believe. So it's what we are trying to do, to be really transparent with the customer also. It's really important.
Yeah. I mean, you say it's the small details, but they do matter. Hey, Pablo. Of course, the French think of the small details, which are really important. But I have also noticed that some brands expanding internationally will sort of limit themselves because they won't think about 72-hour shipping. And so that becomes a limitation for acquisition. And they'll think it's too expensive, so let's not do it. And then they'll think, well, returns will be very expensive, so let's not offer free returns. And all of these things, those are the hindrances to your growth in a new area. So I really love that you guys have thought customer first and how do we make that as seamless as possible? So
And it took us some time also, because obviously at the beginning we were thinking, can we have free returns? Can we have free exchanges? And it depends where are your priorities. But if expanding in a new country is really a priority, you cannot build like a good business and a good and a profitable e-commerce business if your customers are not happy. So I believe we need to make a choice. Or we have a good experience and we have a good, strong focus on the market. And then you invest a lot in the experience, but you'll see that if you have a good experience, you will have a higher like lifetime value and then a higher like profitability. And it's more all the dollars that we don't spend in customer experience, we will spend them in acquisition, because it will be harder to have a new customer. So, and maybe if it was not a mistake from our side, but for instance, about returns management, we took a long time to implement really the perfect experience, and we are just like onboarding on a new solution called Loop Returns, and I believe it's really the perfect experience today. And maybe it was a mistake from our side because we didn't want to invest too much in the returns, but we had like an automated portal. But now it's time to just have the best return experience possible, whatever like the pricing is, because from a customer perspective, it's what you expect. And so we never invest too much in the customer experience, I believe.
yeah, you're right. It'll always pay you dividends doing that. And then in merchandising, Morgan, which is obviously your bag, cross-border expansion, oh my gosh, and what to consider about different hemispheres, countries, seasons, calendars. I can't. Tell me how you strategize for international assortments.
The list goes on. Ah, my gosh. And I think the thing is, it is so important to make your customers feel like you do have localized product, but I've got one open to buy. Like I can't do it all, especially if I'm in Australia or the US and I'm trying to purchase for winter and resort at the same time. It's, oh my God, sleepless nights in the merchandising days. So I think that's always the biggest hurdle I find brands go through, is just the difference in weather. I mentioned before working for that luxury retailer in Oz, and I know that I heard the merchandisers groan in the background when I mentioned, exclusives. We love exclusives. But, I can't, I've got an MOQ with the factory. I've got to meet it. So I've got to purchase D2C units to really top that up for my wholesale. And so it's tough. It's, we want to make sure that we're segmenting everyone by how well they're doing, but maybe it's about looking at it by weather rather than by country. So I think, I had my mindset really shift when I just started thinking about, okay, well, it's resort in the US. I have a Queensland store. I've got Queensland customers. I know this. I'm talking to my head of e-com. I'm talking to marketing. I'm like, okay, how can we really group these customers together by their behavior and purchasing, rather than trying to think in this different mentality, like, Pablo was mentioning before. And even before that, I think it's about taking a step back and thinking, okay, I know that I've got these really big pieces of, misalignment in my assortment for 2 seasons in a year. It's always going to be winter and summer. So how can I understand what product works in resort and what product works in winter and make the customer feel like they're being included? I could probably tell a bit of a story here about being quite creative on thinking, okay, it's going to be resort. I'm thinking light fabrics. I'm thinking beautiful silhouettes. I'm thinking floral. But how can I winterfy that? So how can I let it live for longer in my business? Is it a darker base? Is it slightly heavier fabric? It's really just taking away the risk so you can still play in that market. But if it lives for a little bit longer, rather than just slashing that and marking it down and ruining that brand identity we've spent so long to build up, focus on the product assortment. I'll just maybe range those core items. So, wait, Pablo, what about you? Are you developing product specifically for the US?
No. We are not. We are not. Why? Because we have the luck that our bestsellers in France are also our bestsellers in the US. So it's maybe the first reason, but also there is a strategic reason. It's like uh, really, like as you told it, like assortment planning is key. And we, for the US market, we are building particular, I would say, like logistics also and assortment planning strategies that we are currently opening our warehouse, a third-party logistics in the US, but we are not going to send all our collection to the US. We are really going to because we are relying on our bestsellers. We are only going to send the bestsellers to the US and to ship, I would say 60-70% of the orders from the United States, and the rest will be shipped from France. Today we operate everything from France. And so we don't want to, we have a different approach. We don't want to build specific products to the US, but we prefer really to just send the right stock at the right moment to the US and never be overstocked, because I spoke a lot with like French brands also like developing in the US, and they always told me overstocked is the worst thing for an e-commerce business and for general business. And so in the US, you really have, I believe, you don't need to have dedicated products, but you have to send the right inventory in the US. And then if a customer purchases a product that is available in France, then our technology, and I believe, can talk about it later, but sends the order to France, and if a customer purchase in the US, then it's sent by the US.
I'm going to ask you both to create a little cheat sheet for me, because I feel as if there are so many nuggets here that we could create a one-pager with what to do, you know. I had never thought of winterifying or summerifying any products. So I think that's great. Extend the life cycle a little bit. Yeah, Pablo, your use of data and the approach to this whole thing has been amazing. So I think it's definitely part of why you guys are successful. But I would like to touch on data and how you're using it, because I think there are a lot more people that want to know about that. So for decision making for you guys, I guess, what is your, optimizing your tech stack for international growth, and how do you use the data for your decisions instead of gut feel when internationally expanding?
Yeah, but both are important, because you need to, I believe you need to have like intuitions, but you have to do testing, and then I think you confirm the intuitions by the data. So it's really how we try to build it. The first thing obviously was to, when we launched in the US, we first waited a few months to identify really the best sellers, and also to identify our real profitability per order. It's really important, because as we told it already, the international expensive is really is really expensive. Obviously, it's an investment. It's not really expensive, but it's a big investment. And so you really need to be sure about your real profitability. And for instance, to avoid any risk and any bad news regarding profitability, we, in our P&L, in our profit and loss, we consider, for instance, returns as a direct cost. So if you return, for instance, a product in the United States, it's not, we don't consider it, the product that you returned, as a value, because we really want to be conservative regarding profitability. So it's really important to build a sustainable business. And so we first use data for the bestsellers, for the profitability. And then, as I told you just before, we needed to plan the assortment. And so it's also when I met you guys at Style Arcade, because we were looking for a tool that would help us to really to just easily to send a good product in our new warehouse in the US, and really to plan our replenishment strategy accordingly. And so the idea was really to use data and product analytics, and to really to deep dive into data and product analytics. And so it's how I met you. We started the onboarding in last September, and so we decided also to move with you guys at StyleArcade to really to deep dive into our product analytics, to see the return rate per product, to see the best sellers per country, to see the rate of sale per country, to see the returns per country, and and also to compare our best sellers between countries, the product types per country. So it's really how we then deep dive to scale. We really needed to have a clear view on our product performance.
I just have a question here, Pablo. One of the guys is saying, can you list the tools you use, your favorites, that create an outstanding experience for your international customers?
Tech stack really matters, because when you implement, like, you want to grow internationally, you have to be able to manage your business from everywhere in the world. Today I'm in New York, but our team is in Paris. And so it's really, really important to have the best tech stack that can be used by global teams. I would start by, for us, like, maybe the most important tool is Shopify at Lafaurie. It's really the backbone of our business. We use Shopify markets, so we sell in multiple currencies, in all the currencies. So if you go on eu.lafaurieparis.com, we sell in euros. If you go on uk.lafaurieparis.com, we sell in pounds, and on us.lafaurieparis.com, we sell in dollars. So it really helps you to be multi-currency, to have that localized experience. So Shopify and Shopify Market, and it helps us also to streamline your order fulfillment, because we can fulfill from the US and also from France. So it's really like Shopify, the backbone of the business. As I told it already, we use Loop Returns for returns management also. So it's really like the best in class returns experience. We use Aftership for all the post-purchase experience. So the good tracking, you receive the good emails at the good moment. It's really important. Like your retention starts when you have your first order confirmation, I believe. So it's really important. We use also the basics like Shopify Tech Stack, Gorgias for customer support, and Klaviyo for CRM. And I covered all the... Okay. Yeah. And we are also, I can talk about it, we are going to test a Try Now, which is a try before you buy program. It's also in the same, it's the same vision to really give a lot of confidence to the shopper. And then it enables the customer to really to shop the products, to try them. They don't pay at checkout, but they just put their credit card information. And then you pay only what you don't keep. So it's really, I don't have any feedback yet, because we are going to launch it in a few weeks. But I'm really excited about it, because I think that when you're an international brand, if you can offer a $0 checkout to your first customers, it's the best thing to remove really all the barriers and to replicate a kind of retail experience also. So yeah, I think I'll list them all, but maybe we could put it in the... If I think about more, I'll tell you. Yeah,
put it on the cheat sheet.
Cheat sheet. It's actually really cool to watch how the industry has grown. Even in the past, 7 to 10 years, with how technology has really advanced that. And I really think, I don't know about you, Pablo, whether you've noticed this in your business and your team, but I just find that the brands and the retailers that have their tech stack together view product and serving the customer in just such a more holistic way, which, from my perspective, I love, because, merchandising isn't just about right product at right time, right store, etc. It's why is that the right time? What were they thinking at that point? And I just think it's so cool that we have access to more data every day, which, I could geek out about it for ages, but I had to put my 2 cents in there.
Yeah, like I totally agree, and I know it also because at Lafaurie we took back a company that was completely different with my brother like 6 years ago, and that was not like data driven at all, uh, and we saw the impact of like a good tech stack and having access to the right data, to have real time data, to do not spend like hours in Google Sheets to do manual reporting, and we see the difference also for our team. It's important for your team, and I think that nothing is more important for your team than being happy to come to work each morning, because if they're not, and if they have to do like 5 hours of Excel reporting in the same day, I don't believe that they will be happy to come back the day after. So it's really the good tech stack can enable a good also happiness for your team, and it's really important. So really everything is linked, and with the Shopify ecosystem that we are in, it's really easy to integrate. And I remember, Morgan, our onboarding, but it was like really easy because we had everything on Shopify, and so we could really onboard easily on Style Arcade. So yeah, definitely, it's so important, and mainly for international growth.
Happy team, happy customers. Hey, Pablo. I think you're
I
so
believe
right.
so.
Well, turning from data and insights into actions, just give us a talk on your customer acquisition strategy and CAC and customer lifetime value. Super important for everyone to know.
Yeah, sure. But I talked a bit about it regarding like our customer acquisition strategy around the painter's jacket. But I think one thing really important to understand is the concept, and I'm sure like our listeners know it, about lifetime value. But lifetime value is basically what a customer generates as a sales in a time range, and it's really important to measure it, because the higher your lifetime value will be, the higher your profitability will be. And so it's really important to compare the lifetime value to your customer acquisition cost. It's really what's the marketing cost of a new customer. And what's really important is to measure the LTV divided by CAC ratio. So it's really for $1 of marketing, how many dollar of sales do you have? And I saw that in the benchmarks, a good LTV divided by CAC ratio is around four. Around four. So when you spend $1 in marketing, you have $4 in sales. And I would advise for an international brand, we aim more five, because you have a lot of also other costs, such as return costs, logistics, international costs. So for an international brand in a foreign country, I would advise like a five ratio like that. So it's I think a good base to start. And concerning customer acquisition, really the idea is to measure your customer acquisition cost, to compare also the products and the customer acquisition cost per product, and then to try always to optimize your lifetime value with a good CRM strategy, with good emails, with a good experience. And if you optimize in the meantime your lifetime value with a good experience and with a good CRM strategy, and your customer acquisition cost with new paid channels, with better content, with reassuring also policy and giving confidence, I think that it's the good path to grow. So it's really, you have to always keep these two metrics in mind, I believe.
Yeah, totally. It's the lifeblood of figuring out all the data and how it intertwines with each other as well, hey Pablo, in terms of strategy. We've got so many questions coming through, so I might just jump to questions if you guys are okay with that. We'll cover a couple of the pressing ones. Definitely a vote here for the cheat sheet. Seems you guys will be busy pulling that together so we can send it out to everybody. But yeah, a couple of questions here around how do you know that there is demand in a new region? Who's going to tell you? Where's the oracle for that?
Oh, I might start this off, Pablo, and then I'd love to hear your answer too. Um, oh, it's hard. I mean, like you said, Kai, I just jump into it. Like, okay, let's try it out. But also, I think that you can have some planning in there, some temperature checks of, do we have Google search terms similar to our market? Do I have competitors already there, and how are they doing? And really seeing, am I feeling a gap, or do I benefit this? And I think the more that you try and just offer international shipping, seeing if you can run some paid ads to get a bite. But ultimately, for me, I'm just like, get me the data, try it. Let's see if there's a really good sales mix. Let's see if we see a high gross profit and a low return rate. And, are they looking for markdowns? Are they looking for full price items? The more data you can get in, the more informed decisions you can make, right? But Pablo, how did you know that you could go into it?
I bet we had a kind of a cheat sheet. Also, it's our retail stores in France, because we have really lucky in Paris because we have a lot of tourists also, and so we see also the demand based on on our retail customers. And also, I believe you have to it's like intuition. Also, it's really important, and really to imagine what kind of where your brand could be in the market, and then to test. You launch the best ads that you have, you launch a good landing page, and then you see the results. And if you see like a good traffic, it's a good or a good click-through rate on your ad, then it's a good first sign. And then you have to test it. I believe that for instance, we have a good like potential in like Germany. We have good organic sales in Germany, but it's not a market where we are a lot currently. We don't have paid ads running in Germany, but it could be our next market, because we feel that we have a good we have customers, retail customers, we have traffic, so it's always like good signs. So it's really a mix of intuition, I believe, and data, as you told it.
Totally. And Germans love quality, Pablo. You can't go wrong with good quality product in Germany. There's an interesting question here, which I hope you guys understand. I'm not sure I do, but it says, what are your thoughts on the ship and hold method to combat minimum order quantities on the wrong season product?
For those who don't know, the ship and hold model you'll see in bigger retailers, and it's basically you develop the season as you normally would, and buy it, but then you just hold product 4 to 6 months out. So I might drop Aussie first and then drop US 4 months later. And I think it's got some proven success, in those major retailers and brands, that each region has its own ecosystem, so it's totally fine. But I think for smaller brands and retailers that, are using wholesale as a marketing channel, or they have really VIP customers who will scour the global internet to get your product, it might not work as well. So it's also a question of markdown structure, timelines. There's a lot of things you've got to think about with that. So whereas it might be easier in the product development and buying, it does take away at the back end of the product life cycle. So depends on who you are.
And how big your cash flow is to support that
Totally.
too. Yeah. Okay. Look, guys, we're coming just to the end of it, but there's so many questions coming through. Pablo, they want to know about your war stories, what went wrong in international expansion. We're going to have to put that in the cheat sheet for the guys. We will definitely, audience, come back to you on all of these Q&As after the session, and we will get you that cheat sheet. So Pablo, thank you so much for sharing so openly with everybody, all of your learnings in international expansion, and Morgan, for your expertise in planning and how to do this. It's not easy, so I hope there's some great takeaways for the audience, but thank you guys so much for sharing. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, and it was a pleasure to be with you and to like share everything, and also to learn also some other things about cheap and old, especially. We don't use it as at Lafaurie, for instance, so it's good learnings also.
Totally. And Pablo, any last thoughts for the audience on international expansion? Here you guys can learn more about the brands, but do you want to leave the audience with any messages today?
As I started the webinar, and I hope that I convinced the 18% at the beginning that don't want to grow internationally, but it's really for a brand like Lafaurie, it has been a crazy growth opportunity for us. And I'm currently in the US giving it's another company that we are starting here. And so I would say to everybody, you can test. We did also some tests in other countries that we missed, but it's okay. And you don't have a growth potential necessarily everywhere in the world, but you have some countries. And so let's test and then see. But if you think like customer first, you have your potential, I believe, everywhere, and each brand is different, but don't miss the international opportunity, I would say.
Fantastic. Well, thank you guys so much. Hope to
Thanks
see you on a webinar soon again. Cool. See you guys later.
Thanks.
Definitely.
See you.
Bye.